here with us. We have some folks we haven't seen in a while. So let's get started with the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable for this week. And with us today, we have what looks like a dinosaur behind Mayor Scott Hill's head, but it's actually just a beautiful painting. And we have the mayor himself. We have Council President Shirley Ward Mullen from the city of Carleton. We have Howie Harkema from Encompass Yamhill Valley. We have Kenna West, city manager for the city of Willamina. And we've got Mayor Rachel King from the city of Amity, and I'm Casey Kula, Yamhill County Commissioner. Welcome, everybody. And a lot has happened in the last week in Yamhill County and places beyond this. What I'd like to note, one thing is that Yamhill County is trying to figure out both who the states, so the governor's vaccination mandate for healthcare workers, who it applies to, because it turns out healthcare worker has a broad definition. And we're also discussing what the federal vaccination mandate for employers of over 100 people means for Yamhill County as well. But we can talk about all that and so much more. And I'd love to get started. I know that Mayor Hill needs to get other places. And so I'm going to hand it over to him for updates because it's very good to see him. And then in just one moment, we'll also have Mayor Linda Watkins from the city of Carleton and Betsy Emery, the new field representative for U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley with us. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mayor Hill and let folks in.
Thank you, Commissioner Kula. It's good to see everyone. I've been at a couple of conferences, even during COVID. They still have a few of those going on, but back into town for leaving tomorrow morning for a week. But so it's good to be in front of you. I thought I just there's a full agenda, so I'd keep it fairly brief and just update you on a couple of things that are happening in McMinnville. This evening, we have our work session, and we're bringing in our DEI committee, the Planning Commission, and a number of other committees. And we're going to be going through the fair housing training with the fair housing group that we've had before for the council, but we felt it was so important to train those that are volunteering in McMinnville about the history of diversity within the state, but also then talking a little bit about fair housing practices. And so that is open for anyone that would like to be a part of that tonight at 5:30 to 7 o'clock. Just go to McMinnville's webpage and go under government, and then go under the city council and agenda, and you can get to the website or the Zoom link tonight. It's if you've not had the opportunity to go through fair housing training, it is absolutely, I think, critical in today's environment. Next Wednesday, we're going to be having a city council work session, and this is in conjunction with the budget committee because it's talking about a couple of things. The first thing that we're going to look at is a very robust review of core services that we have been putting together, giving us an opportunity to look at those areas of service and expenses and making sure that we're doing the right kinds of thing and using taxpayers' money effectively. Secondly, we're going to then, and that's going to take us about an hour, and then we're going to look at the next hour looking at a study of resource options for sustainable city services. So we're looking at expenses, core services, and we're going to be looking at revenue opportunities. The paperwork on this is substantial. I think it's over 75 pages. And so we've got a lot of reading to do between today and next Wednesday. Much like any budget document, a lot of supporting data to get us to some decisions that need to be made. Outside of that, City Hall still remains closed, but we're following up on any messages that are left. Our furloughs are completed, so our staff is back on a 5-day-a-week basis, giving services, and we're doing fairly well from that perspective. We're able to save about $650,000 over the furlough to help close the gap on our budget deficit that we had. So those are just a couple of things that are happening in McMinnville. Any questions anyone would have?
I don't see any hands, so I've got mine up then. Thanks, Mayor. So I know that you have money coming, or the city of McMinnville has money coming for a navigation center and a low barrier shelter, thanks to Rep. Noble and everybody else in the legislature. What are the plans for that money, and what's the plan going forward?
We put together a group of individuals that are meeting on a weekly basis to determine the options that we might have with that money. You know, 1.5 million, we applaud and we're excited about that, but really it's not enough to build the asset that we need. And then more importantly, you know, we have to look at how we can sustain that program administratively over the long run. You don't want to spend money to see it built and not be able to operate it. So this group is called the Navigation Center Committee, has been meeting now for 4 weeks. I've been traveling so much or having other meetings, I've not been able to go to that, but I think this week will be the first opportunity that I can get a sense of doing that with our partners. So Casey, a long answer to a short question, but we don't know yet, but we know that we're going to be very methodical in the process.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Any other questions or comments for the mayor? Sweet. Then my next one, which is, how about the Newburgh-Dundee bypass? Has the city of McMinnville determined how much they might be interested in putting in for it?
We have, yeah, put a person on the spot. We've had an opportunity to have Dave Hogelberg come to city council, as he's done to every city council and to the county, and made his request for us to be looking at that. And so we've had those discussions, but again, we are looking at two things. Is it feasible for us to use our ARPA funds? And secondarily, are there other ways for us to fund that local match? We haven't determined at the bypass committee yet what that local match is. I think we have an idea. Usually the local matches are about a 20% lift. And, you know, we're looking at phase 2 of being about 100. And, you know, if you take the contingencies away, because contingencies, a 40% contingency really throws that up high. But I'm thinking phase 2 is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 150 million. And we think that phase 3 could be about 100 million if we leave out the on and off ramps in Dundee. And so you take 20% of that, and that's a big number. That's and I don't think that we're going to be able to come up with that, but maybe half of that is maybe a number that might be appropriate to look at. I know that we are looking at bringing all of the leaders together to have another conversation as to if this is a process and a way of going about bringing the money to the table. And I think the earlier we have a commitment, we don't need it, but the earlier we have the commitment, the more that ODOT's willing to step up to the plate. I mean, we have the possibility of about $42 million, which could take care of the interchange at 219. And as soon as we could be moving forward on that, I think ODOT's going to be a much more equipped to financially come to the plate and help us. And once we start that, then you know phase 2 is really going to move forward.
Awesome, thank you. And it looks like Mayor King has a question for you.
Yeah, as a comment, I've noticed that there seems to be some confusion or not much clarity about whether the ARPA funds can be used for road and transportation infrastructure at all. It seems like I heard Mayor Hill mention that, and I know that a lot of cities, so I don't know if there's different uses for it that are acceptable at the different levels, but I think that that's definitely something that needs to be looked into further.
Yeah, Mayor, absolutely right. I mean, I think there's understandings on both sides, but we have through our our consultants, which are a very seasoned team of consultants, both federally and state. They have absolutely told us that ARPA funds can be used for transportation, and we're taking that at the face value and moving forward with the ask of the city and the county. So, Michelle and Summit Strategies know this really well, and Michelle's in Washington all the time. She knows the people that are behind this and have talked and ensured us that we could use those funds. Casey, do you have any? I think that's where you're sitting too, that what we've heard.
Yeah. I mean, it says water and sewer infrastructure, and well, it's funny. I'm like looking at Kenna West here because I'm like, well, she's the city administrator here. So as a city manager, she might feel more comfortable saying yes to that one. But that was our understanding at the county.
Yeah.
It is ambiguous. Willamina is staying on the safe side, and we're going just with water and wastewater, because if it comes down and that ambiguity is held against us, then those funds can be clawed back.
Yeah.
And the city of Willamina does not have the money in our general fund to give that money back. And because we have such a huge amount of need, we can spread it to water and sewer. We don't have to use it on transportation. So we're being very, very risk adverse and putting it right where we need to put it, in water, specifically water. But Commissioner, you're right. There are experts on both sides, and they are saying you can use it for transportation. So it is weighing that risk, and how risk adverse are you, and how much can you afford to give back if that ambiguity is held against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the county, there are enough city requests for water and sewer projects that we probably don't need to get anywhere near, like you at the city of Willamina, getting anywhere near using it for things where there may be an issue, because we talk to you all the time. We know these things. We know your needs. Any other questions or comments, or Mayor King, did you want to follow up with Mayor Hill?
No, just thank you all. That's some good insight, because I think that Amity is the same way. We have more than enough water and sewer that we don't need to weigh that risk because of where we're at. But I appreciate the additional information.
Well, one other piece that I'll just share is, our ARPA funds are about 7.7 million, and we're not going to use the majority of those monies for transportation. It's just a piece, and it's just to help us. We would either need to take ARPA funds, or we would have to use the general fund to go in to make up the local match on the bypass. We've already put in about 3.2 million into phase 1, and we've amortized that over about 25 years, and we're putting in about a payment of 200 to 250,000 a year over that time period. And so this is an opportunity not to pick up another obligation that we're going to spread out over time. We just have to make a determination. And again, it's council that will make those determinations. And I don't know where we sit totally. I mean, we've got a number of individuals who've been following, all of us have been following the bypass. We understand what our obligations are. We just need to use these monies the best we can. And one last thing I'll say is that we're not running out to spend those ARPA dollars. We want to make sure that we're taking advantage of all the other grants and the ARPA dollars that are spread among all of the other organizations that we could maybe get grants for. And so we're probably not going to spend any of ARPA dollars this year, because we're going to be strategic about it so that we can get the biggest bang for our usage of that.
All right, great, Mayor. And then my last question, because I don't know the status of this. A couple of weeks ago, Councilor Menke mentioned the single room occupancy kind of code work that maybe you all were working on, like an SRO, as part of the like yet another try at getting more housing within the city. What's the status of that one?
Thank you, Casey, for that question. It's a work in progress. I mean, it's code work, and Heather and her team have been putting lots of time and effort in, as is our affordable housing committee. So we're going to try to take another stab at that. Again, anything in the interim to help us in the housing situation that we find ourselves. But we got some good things on the horizon, and this is from a county perspective. The Aspire development that's going to be moving out on 3 Mile Lane. You know, I'm real excited. I talked to Alexandra at YCAP and the turnkey that's coming together, and then the opportunity of the navigation center can take care of some of that low-hanging need out there. But what we truly need to be looking at is affordable housing in McMinnville and providing opportunities. I hate to take this much time, but I was out in the North Baker Creek area this weekend, and buildings going on tremendously fast out there. They've started to scrape phase 3 of that North Baker Creek. That's the commercial area. So you know that they're moving those mounds of dirt that they had all over the place. I spent a good hour looking at all of that North Baker Creek area, and things are just moving very quickly, but those are not affordable houses. You know, that's 350,000 and above out in that area. But it's very high density, and parks are going in and some of those types of things. So it's going to be a different look for McMinnville as compared to what we've done traditionally.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for that. And I'd like to know, as I was thinking about that roundabout, you know, past that roundabout is lots of really good mountain biking and gravel riding. And I was in Lane County over the weekend, which is just like protected bike lanes and paths between cities. And somebody said, well, what would it take for Yamhill County to be a place where people bike the way that it's just like, it's culture there? And watch out, I said, building protected and safe bike and walking paths, and electing people who want safe biking and walking paths. So if you get any pressure, I apologize, only a little bit.
Well, the flip side to that, Casey, is that we're taking our path that goes all the way through the city out to this new Baker Creek. And so you got the J. Pearson Park that goes right along those transmission electrical lines, and that's all going to go to Baker Creek. And so this new development is going to be centered around that biking path and hiking, and then we're going to have trails along Baker Creek in this new development at the high end of it. So again, we're doing what we can within the city. We just now have to take a look at the county and some of the other things and have a strategic plan that leads us where we need to go. And kudos to Newburgh for what they're trying to do, and Dundee trying with their paths out there.
All right, thanks. I had lots of questions for you this time, Mayor. And I think that Kenna West has a question or comment.
Well, just a comment. We're working on that too, Commissioner. Our transportation system plan is almost to adoption, and we spent a long time working on trails, bike trails, walking trails, safe biking throughout Willamina, and not just Willamina, but figuring out how to put into that transportation system plan a larger, including Polk County, and because we're part Polk County, that would include a bridge so that folks could be on a bike from Willamina all the way around to Sheridan. And so here in West Valley, we're working on that as well. And so if we can get all of the regions or the cities to do their own, imagine how much easier it would be to connect them. So, you know, that's just the next step. So I think we're getting there. Even our little cities, we're getting there.
That's super exciting. People come to me and ask, like, you know, what can we do to get a safe path on 18B? So having it in the works and being talked about is wonderful. Because I wouldn't want to walk. Yeah.
Well, and Casey, to that point, the work that's being done on 18 and that 3 mile lane and that 18 corridor, it does incorporate bike paths, and they're changing the elevation of the road. And, it's not going to be all along 18, but in the congested areas, probably from Crookshank going into 3 mile lane, that's being taken into consideration. We're a long way from it, but it's in the design. And so that's the first start.
Nice. Well, what we learned from both Betsy Emery's colleagues in Senator Wyden's office was that it has to be in the design and in the plan in order for the feds to think about it. So, well, with that, the little segue here is that we have with us Betsy Emery, who is the field rep for Senator Merkley, Stacy Jochimson's position. And Betsy, I'm just going to hand it off to you for any introductions, whatever you want to do for a little while here. And thank you for joining us.
Giving me the floor. Wow. Hi, everyone. My name is Betsy. It's great to meet you all. And yeah, I'm filling in. I am in Stacy's old position. So I'm fresh. I am 3 weeks into my job. And so there's definitely a lot of background information and just all kinds of different things that I'm trying to get up to speed on and oriented to, but I am really looking forward to working with you all. And I know that there is a lot of work that has been going on and more work to be done in your county. And so along those lines, I do want to say that I am trying to set up time to meet all of the mayors and county commissioners in the 6 counties that I'm responsible for. And that includes Yamhill County, Polk County, Marion County, and then Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia as well on North Coast. So yeah, I am planning on being in the area on the 24th. So if you have time in the morning that day, anytime before noon, that you might be interested in putting some time on the calendar just to kind of chat through some of the needs of your community, projects that you've been working on, just federal intersections, I would just love that opportunity. So I'll leave it at that. My email is betsy.emery@merkley.senate.gov. I'll put it in the chat. And I do have the same cell phone as Stacy. So you should just be able to update that contact information in your phone. So thank you all for having me. I'm just going to be listening, but feel free to ping me if anything comes up, and I will be reaching out for tours. So I hope I can meet you guys in person.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody want to say welcome or questions or comments? The thing that Betsy really needs to know right now, and how he's going to get us started.
Betsy, thank you for being with us, and thank you for joining the state group and doing this wonderful work. I represent a nonprofit that is dealing with homelessness in Yamhill County. I would love to meet with you on the 24th around 11. Where are you going to be when you arrive?
My office is based out of Salem, so I plan to be down there a couple of days a week at a minimum. I'm still kind of working out what my tour of logistics looks like that day. Where are you based in the county?
So if I wanted to
you can organize this online if you provide your contact information in the chat.
I'll do that.
Okay, that sounds great.
Maybe do a Zoom.
Yeah.
And this is Mayor Hill, and Howie's in McMinnville, and I'd be willing to take you around the community on the 24th. Probably in the morning, you could start with us, and we could take you on a little tour, and then meet with myself and Howie and other interested individuals that maybe are not on the call at this point.
Thank you, Mayor.
And weighing in from the small towns, Linda Watkins from Carleton, which we would certainly would love to. I would love to get you together with our city manager and myself and visit. So look around town and talk about some of the things that we're dealing with. So thank you.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't steal anybody's thunder by telling you all about water issues if they're going to tell you about them. Like I hear that Kenna
You get a
West is
water
going to tell you
report
about
from me
that.
every
There's enough water issues to go around, Casey, I'm sure.
All but McMinnville, we're sitting pretty good.
Right. I was going to ask Mayor Hill a McMinnville water question, and I was like, no. I've given Betsy enough background. Okay. Any other comments or questions from Betsy? All right. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us. It's good to have somebody in Stacy's role. From the very beginning when we started this in, I think, late March or mid-March of last year, it was like Mayor Hill and Howie were kind of some of the first ones, and Kenna, and it was Stacy was reliably here every time. So she heard things like when the mayor of Amity at the time, Michael Cape, was saying cities can't afford to hold on to these water bills, and that moved it up through the chain to like provide funding. So we all clearly recognize the value of you joining us, and thank you. Okay, and then I think Mayor or Kenny West, do you want to add anything for today? I know that you need to go. Okay, never mind then. I will gonna move on to other mayors. Then Mayor King, what would you like to share with the community today, besides water issues?
No water issues today.
Okay.
We won't go over that. I just want to tell Betsy thank you also, and I'll reach out. Zoom calls are best right now, but we'd love to get to know her and talk about Amity a little bit. Not too much to report. Tomorrow we have our council work session going on, and that's just an opportunity for all of our points of contact to kind of get the full council updated, and our city administrator. That's a public meeting. People are welcome if they have questions or concerns or want to listen to what we're working on. And then also Public Works will be working on.
Mayor, I think you muted yourself accidentally.
Oh,
You said something about Public Works and then it went gone for me.
thank you. Sorry, I was hand movement down below. Public Works will be working on some sewage and storm drain work along Trace Street this week. And so that is Highway 99. So they shouldn't be on the road, but just so everyone's aware, that will be happening. And then we're also starting some conversations about how we can do some community fall celebrations and the holidays coming up, keeping in mind COVID and the way things are. We still want the community to be able to participate and have some fun. We just are rethinking how we're able to go about that. That's about it.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor. Are there questions for Mayor King? And then there's a counselor opening, right? What's the status of that? Do folks apply to the city?
Yes, there is. Thank you. I forgot to mention that last week as well, and then regretted it.
Well,
so
we
yes,
were all excited about you, so.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, so there's an open council position, and you need to live within city limits and have been here for at least a year, 18-year-old voter in the state of Oregon, and you can apply, you can get the application offline or stop by City Hall. We would love to have a full council.
Awesome, thank you. And then I'm going to go to the mayor of Carleton, and we also have with us Remy Drapkin, council president from the city of McMinnville, join us a little bit later. So I'll make sure we get an update from her. But mayor or council president, you raised your hand.
I was waving and hit the wrong thing.
Hello, we're hitting the wrong things all the time right now, apparently. Mayor Watkins and council president Shirley Ward Mullen together. You want to do a tag team? Or a relay, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, relay. Well, it's, life is never dull in a small town. Our reports from the city manager are the transmission line is progressing. We're getting down there. It's the replacement's moving along. We had a little bit of brown water in a few places today, but these things happen when you're trying to replace water lines, and especially with the scope of what's going on here. And that's in spite of the fact that our public works guys have been dealing with, in the last 3 weeks, 12 major water line leaks. Just with, and this is, where'd Yamhill go? Because that's their fault. No, with the changes in water pressure that we're getting, you know, out of McMinnville, with the water pressure coming in from McMinnville, between that and the work that we're doing, our very old water lines are in shock. So we've been doing a lot. Our guys have been doing a lot of repair on water lines all around, I think, the city and the area. Police are busy. We have a new police officer who's writing lots of speeding tickets, which is kind of nice. And but he's keeping everybody busy with that. And school traffic routines are starting to kind of get settled in. The pickups and deliveries are starting to work on. We do have a job opening. If you know of anybody who is looking for work at our city hall, this is an office specialist. The application is on our website, so you can go in there. We're moving on that one. Does anybody want some bunnies? We have a huge population of wild bunnies who are just really adorable. So if you know of anybody that would like a bunny, you know, they're not actually wild. They're kind of feral bunnies who are reproducing and becoming more and more wild as they reproduce. But we've got some neighbors that over in one section of town that would they'd like to see the herd thinned out a little bit. So, and we just don't know what to do with them. So if you got any ideas, and our city hall albatross, I'm kind of starting to look at that as an albatross. We were progressing along, and we were doing pretty well. And then we've got some counselors that are have some concerns. And so we're having a special meeting tomorrow night to have another discussion about what we need in the city hall. And mainly for most of us around here is funding, just figuring out how you're going to, you know, Carleton is not that big of a city where we can just blithely step into a multi-million-dollar project, which is what that would be. So we're kind of looking at that and wondering what's going to happen there. But really, that's pretty much it. It's not been a quiet week, but I guess it's not as eventful as some. So there we are.
Awesome, thank you.
And actually, Shirley, do you have anything to add? Because I've probably forgotten something.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. The meeting that we're going to have tomorrow night, I have been, so I've been on the council for 7 years. So I've been part of this city hall project for a very long time.
7 years.
And I have to say, I feel like a bit like it's Groundhog Day. Keep circling back and with some of the same issues. So hopefully tomorrow night we will come to an understanding and move this project along.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah. That's about it from us. Oh, I did want to comment on the biking, because, and especially Carleton, we're almost highway locked the way our city is set up. I mean, trying to get bikers out here is a little bit difficult because of the way the highways are set up, but we do have, some new subdivisions going in, some new streets, and a lot of street work that we're hoping and planning on doing. And I think as we do some of that, we would like to see more. We have several people in town who are advocating for bike lanes and ensuring that we do have safe routes to schools and bike lanes. And so this is something that I would really like to see happen. I'm not sure how we can make that happen with the width of our streets and some of the stuff that we deal with here, but I'm very interested. So.
Awesome. And it looks like Mayor King has a question or comment that's probably related to that.
It is. Yeah, so a lot of Amity's improvements in roads have to do with the safe routes to schools. And I was just wondering, how do bike lanes fall into that? Is that something that they promote? and that you can use as an avenue to get more bikeability in your city?
That I don't know. We've been trying, we're just trying to kind of figure it out. I know that we've talked to ODOT about, doing some sidewalk enlargement, some crosswalk improvements. And most of the bike lanes around here that would end up being used probably would end up being used by kids to get back and forth from schools or to the pool or whatever's going on. So we're just looking for ways to get it done, just kind of, poking everywhere we can and seeing what comes out of the woodwork.
And I put into the chat the link, Mayor King, to the Safe Routes to Schools program website from ODOT. It's something like 777 times oversubscribed, like the lingo for there's not nearly as much money as there are people and organizations that want it. But it looks like in the 2023 to 2027, which I think is the one, the Surface Transportation Improvement Plan from ODOT, that they have Yamhill's, the city of Yamhill's application for a Safe Routes program as like the top rank, which is very exciting. It's going to do things like have it signalized crosswalks across 47 and 240, because those are, kids are trying to go across those dangerously. So I believe that it includes both shoulders, like bike lanes, but also improving sidewalks if you need improvements to sidewalks, or putting in sidewalks.
Yeah, that was just something that came to mind for Mayor Watkins. I know it is like 4 to 7 years out from when you're like, I want to get on this, to seeing the results. So it's definitely something worth looking into.
The hard thing is having it be a competitive process when, if you're eligible, you're eligible, right? To me, that's very frustrating.
Yeah,
especially when it's safe routes to schools, right? We're improving safety for people to get to their schools. Sorry, Mayor Watkins, I interrupted you.
No, I was just agreeing with you. It really is. I mean, we spend a lot of time, and everybody spends a lot of time talking about making things safe for children, and yet when you come out to them and say, okay, we need this to help them, it's like, oh well, we'll get around to it here, don't hurry, we'll get there. So yeah, it's hard sometimes to smile and say, we'll keep working on it.
Yeah, and then it looked like Howie had a comment to add.
I just wanted to ask Mayor Watkins, there's a lot of bikers that use the back side of 240 to come to Carleton, Yamhill, and there is no bike lanes whatsoever on that back road, as you know.
There's barely car lane.
Barely. But I see a lot of people that are driving have to go around these people, and there's really nowhere to go. It worries me to death because I see a lot of bikers on those roads, a lot.
Yeah, we have some real serious concerns about that. I mean, that's county, once we hit, most of 240, I think, is county. So we would certainly provide support and testimony and anything that was needed to help create those. But yeah, that's one of the problems, is that we are kind of, as I said, kind of highway bound, and there are a lot of bikes that come through town and head on out Meadow Lake Road and hit, west side going one way or the other. And it's the same thing there, and we're talking about street roads that are getting huge trucks. We're not just talking about, little backcountry roads that maybe the biggest thing you're going to see is a suburban or something. These are all major routes that semi trucks are using. So that makes it even scarier. Yeah. And
well, just full disclosure, Yamhill County is not responsible for Highway 240.
Oh, sorry.
Because it is an ODOT road.
Okay.
But our jurisdiction does start at that intersection with the like blue wine kiosk sign, which is
Oh.
CUNY.
CUNY Road,
Hendricks?
yeah.
I don't know. It's like Hendricks is the one that goes
240
into town, so it's
240
CUNY.
goes
Yeah.
on into Yamhill.
Yes. And
Yes.
apparently there's an expletive painted on with spray paint onto the road just after that intersection. Does anybody know where the road kind of falls apart on Highway 240 as you go up the hill? Yeah, okay,
Okay.
Howie knows. So
The ice-
apparently it says F ODOT on the road there now.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah, the other
Which-
day.
Congresswoman Bonamici and I went right at that spot where that slump is. We went to a Crown and Castle cell phone tower because the Online Northwest is putting one of their broadband repeaters up there. And I sat at that roadway, and people were driving on the shoulder. They were driving in the other lane. It was terrifying, including with trailers and semis. So
Yeah,
people just decided to communicate their feelings.
yeah, all the highways and roads in the county, from, I think, anything that comes from out of Washington County or Multnomah down through here is just right now terrifying. And it's not, we were talking about that last week. It's not going to get any better.
Yeah, so Meadow Lake Road, you had mentioned Meadow Lake Road, and there's a section of Meadow Lake, obviously, that's Yamhill County jurisdiction, and then it's called Nestucca Access, which is BLM property, and BLM has been in the process of improving that section, and so we have an agreement with them to overlay and improve the section of Meadow Lake from there on into the four-way intersection. And I was asked whether there was going to be a decent shoulder, and it sounds like there's going to be a shoulder at least, which is halfway to a decent shoulder. Yeah.
Well, and in fact, we're in, we've got our agreement, I think, with the county to where we are trenching now to put in the water line, because it's coming right down Meadow Lake.
Yeah.
So we've got an agreement with the county for mutual paving.
Exactly. I like that, mutual paving. And then West Side Road is actually, thinking about highway locked Carleton. West Side Road is technically on our transportation system plan as being a bike route in the future. But because all of the bridges are sized just enough for 2 log trucks going by, it's an incredibly expensive proposition to make it bike safe because we have to rebuild all the bridges.
Yeah.
And as you can picture, there's spots where it's, 20 feet of gravel that's needed as well. But it's on a long-term plan, and we're hoping to use the Federal Lands Access Program to partly fund that.
That would be great. Yeah. Yeah, because we see bikers on those roads all the time, and it's terrifying. I love bike riding, and I haven't been on a bike since I moved here. 2 weeks after we got here, I looked around and said, yeah, no, we're done.
I should show you some rides then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
I want to make sure that we've got Councilor Drabkin on, and make sure she has Councilor has some time, and then Howie has some time to update folks. Councilor Drabkin, are you with us? And how's harvest?
I am with you. You are with me in a warehouse. We're working, Ralph over there is working on fixing our destemmer, which we had some ball bearings go out on yesterday while we were processing 5 tons of fruit, which is not ideal. That's also kind of harvest. I have heard some wineries, and I'll just kind of roll this right into my more general things to share. I have heard that some wineries in the Willamette Valley are already in up to 70%. And I've mostly been hearing really positive reports out of wineries. There's a really high demand to pick right now. There's a lot of fruit that is in the early stages of ripeness, but definitely ripe. And, I think there's a lingering thought and awareness and fear probably of potential smoke, labor shortages, et cetera. So I know picks are really challenging to schedule right now, but they're also happening and everything looks great. The fruit, I've heard nothing but fantastic things. So that's good news for our valley as a whole. And then let's see, City of McMinnville, I missed Mayor Hill's report, but I assumed he talked to you about the fact that the Fair Housing Council is coming to, okay, so I won't repeat that. And then did he also talk a little bit about Chief Scales coming tonight to the city council meeting?
I don't think so.
No, okay, so, and Howie, I think you'll be especially interested in this. There's definitely been some communication challenges we've been facing in terms of trying to get good collaboration or good, clear communication between service entities, the police department, and some of the responses that are happening out in the community for our unhoused citizens. And so the chief is going to come tonight as well and talk a little bit about some of the data that they've collected about police response. So we really want to have an open dialogue and make sure that we're working together. And then, of course, we're working diligently on the award, if you'll call it award, the $1.5 million that was granted the city of McMinnville to build a navigational center. So since we got clear direction on how that money would take shape, there have been weekly meetings and good progress on that. I missed the last meeting, but it is a weekly meeting, so it'll pick back up here. And I know that we're continuing to make very quick forward progress. So that's a very good effort. And I think I'll leave it at that. And I'm gonna go put my hands back in that water.
All right, before you go, any questions for Councilor Dropkin? All right, thank you and happy harvest.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, and watch out for the rain, right?
Yeah, we'll watch it. Well, I'm not that worried about rain.
That's good. I love it.
It's good when it rains in Oregon.
This is true.
Thank you.
Very true. All right, Howie, what would you like to share with people today?
Well, I'd like to reiterate what Mayor Hill said about the Fair Housing Council of Oregon training tonight at 5:30 to 7 as part of the Affordable Housing Committee. We will definitely be there to listen to what the Fair Housing Council representatives have to say. I meet with them, as you know, monthly, but reiterating what the training is for everyone else is wonderful. So Sunday Sandwiches is continuing at the library. It's being funded by Encompass Yamhill Valley through the 1st of October, and then we will do it again. We are looking for a venue to put them at. Right now, they do it under the library breezeway, and it's at 1 o'clock on Sundays till 3 o'clock on Sundays to feed our homeless population and those in poverty that need the food, because that was the only day that there wasn't a food service oriented nonprofit working on that. So we're glad to be able to do that. I'm glad that the extreme heat is probably over for the summer. During those 3 big events that we had in Yamhill County and across Oregon, we were able to keep 308 plus people safe over those 3 events throughout Yamhill County. Working with Brian has been great. Working with Casey and Carrie and a number of other people has been fantastic to make things happen. We do have a number of things that we need to start considering for the winter, for the warming shelters rather than the cooling shelters now. So we're going to be working on that as well. I think that's it. I was going to ask the mayor from Willamina if she'd like to join our Yamhill County Mayors on Homelessness group on first Thursdays of the month at 1 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting. Again, thank you, Rachel, for coming last time. And Mayor Watkins, we missed you, and Mayor Hill, we missed you too last time. Unfortunately, he was out of town. Linda's always busy. So we totally understand the situation. One of the things that I do have a worry about is recently a number of our homeless in McMinnville were found to have to quarantine due to COVID, but no antibody tests were done. And even though the tests showed that they were negative, it had been 3 weeks. And so we don't know who had COVID and who did not. And that is a concern to me because there's more than one camp in McMinnville of our homeless population, and we don't know who has had it and who has not. And very easily it could be brought back into the city through any service situation, whether it be in a grocery store or just meeting somebody on the street. So there's some concern there. That's my report for today. Thank you, Commissioner.
And thank you, Howie. Thanks for taking the lead on 3 separate heat events. So thank you. Nobody died here.
Right.
The lowest bar possible. We got over it. Mayor Watkins has a comment or question for you.
Yeah, I just had a question for Howie. When you mentioned the cooler weather coming in, you mentioned last time, I think, that you could use some blankets if we had some. Where would it be best to drop those?
Just at my house again, like
Okay.
you did with the cages, pet
I
cages.
got a couple of crates I can drop off too, if you want those again.
Yeah,
few more.
I've left any blankets, sleeping bags, etc., warm jackets, even used ones, just laundered, anything like that, because it's coming too quickly. As we all know, the rain is already due by Friday in up to an inch in Yamhill County and Multnomah County.
I've got a couch and a dining table if you wanted to use those if you had any use for those.
I'll talk to you separately, Linda, about that. I don't have a place to store them.
I know. No, never mind. I'm trying to find some way to get them into town and I don't have anything big enough, but I will gather up some of the blankets and stuff that I've got around here that would be useful.
Always useful. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Awesome. Thank you, Howie, and thank you, Mayor. And I don't have a lot of updates for the community because you all have shared all of them, but we do next week. The Board of Commissioners has another work session on the American Rescue Plan money and how we're still in the process stage of determining for this pot of money how we're going to go out to communities and organizations to hear from them about their proposals. So stay tuned for that. I think that the Water and Sewer Infrastructure Fund will be the simplest, so therefore the fastest to get out to the community. But as you all have noted, it's very important to be transparent and follow a process with these tax dollars to get them to the best use possible. So be patient with us, but we are working through it. So that's the very exciting thing from the county at this point. But we I would imagine that other folks are talking about, but our Human Resources Department is trying to figure out which of the mandates for vaccinations or for testing the county employees are going to be subject to. So stay tuned for that, including a discussion about whether federal contractors includes any jurisdiction that accepts money from the federal government. So that would involve all of us. So just to be aware of that. And the other component is that we don't know if a business will be defined, that a jurisdiction will be defined as a business. But again, if we're determined to be federal contractors, then we will be subject to it as well. And mostly I bring that up because it's good to be thinking about it before your city actually has to work through, okay, is there an exemption process? What does testing look like? Is the testing on us? If somebody gets sick or has a reaction to the vaccine, are we liable? All those issues are things that we need to figure out in the course of following the law. So, and then I realized I didn't ask anybody, and we don't have any educators or school board members on how, any thoughts, observations on the first week of school, because it was in person. Mayor King, you're smiling. How did things go?
Coming from a parent perspective, it was very hard to send my kids to in-person school. I have a elementary schooler and a high schooler. And so again, from what I can see, I think keeping all the children, compliant or following all these things is a lot easier in elementary school than it may be in high school. But I think that everyone's trying. There's a lot of people really trying to keep our kiddos safe. And it's a big change to have everyone back together. So again, as I've said before, I think we all just really need to do our part, to stay as safe as possible, because it's really great to see the difference in the kids being in that school environment. Like I was hesitant, and then seeing it, I'm like, oh, I'm just so thankful. But there's risk, and there's, sacrifices and responsibilities that come with getting that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I was down in Eugene over the weekend, and students down there had just entered their first day of classes was on Friday, oddly enough. I'm not sure what the rationale was there. And there were a lot of kids still trying to figure out, like, well, this is really different than last year. And parents, both with that kind of the mixed emotions about it. But a lot of happiness for having, hopefully having a regular routine.
I'll also note, I didn't see any Yamhill County schools on the outbreak report, which showed the first week of in school. And the high school has had a lot of sports activities canceled because the other team was having issues. So I hate to be thankful that it was the other team, but I'm glad that we knew what was going on, and it was avoided.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. And it is something to be proud of at this point. Yeah.
Casey, excuse me, I have a
Yes.
question regarding testing. Is the county going to provide some support to the school districts to, in terms of providing testing to the students? Because it's my understanding now, at least in terms of the Yamhill Carleton School District, that they are not doing testing, periodic testing of students.
Right, the surveillance testing. And my understanding is that school districts, that Health and Human Services is more than happy to work with school districts, but that it has to be the school district coming and talking to them about it. And
Okay.
my understanding is that they're meeting, school districts and public health are meeting on a weekly basis, they've been meeting on a weekly basis, but that has come up, and that the public health is able to help with that.
Yeah, because I don't have a child in the school district, but a friend of mine is a parent who has a child in the school district, and she was told that, well, we're not doing testing, we're just observing the children every day. I do not know what you could tell by observing, but just doesn't
Good
seem
point.
very acceptable to me.
Yeah, and one thing that we talked about in the county today, actually, specifically around testing, was that with the federal mandate being vaccination or weekly testing, the county is just trying to figure out what that's going to look like if test kits and reagents and testing centers are essentially swamped by organizations and businesses that are at least initially perhaps testing many people every week. So just what that looks like is an added wrinkle to all of this.
Yeah.
But my hope is, last week, Director Manfred acknowledged that that surveillance testing can be a really powerful tool in a school setting.
Exactly.
There will also be the testing available Thursday and Friday at the fairgrounds. And so that should be available for all if you have a student or anyone that wants to go there to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That it is available. Okay, any last thoughts before we move on into the day? Beyond a welcome and thank you, Betsy, for joining us today. All right, well, be safe out there, wear a mask, get vaccinated, and we're gonna get through this. And all these people here are working hard to make sure you get through it. And we'll see you next week.